Right. Yeah. Okay. So, what were the questions that we were going to ask you? Hi, I'm host Eric. I'm here with Apprenticeship Tiffany and Lorenz Walker. What was the question we were going to talk about there? The two questions?
We're going to talk about whether or not human demise is inevitable, and if it is, how long is it going to be before that happens?
Okay. And this is related to. Okay, are we still talking about the uploading of the consciousness thing?
Well, yeah. So I mean, we came to this because we were talking about virtual reality and the internet and communities and the idea of the singularity, where all of our all of our consciousnesses are going to potentially be uploaded into one single neural network, and that would essentially be the demise of the human race as we know it. There's also lots of other potential demises for the human race. If you look at the fact that our planet's population is already bigger than it really should be able to support, and just things like that. Also, we could all blow each other up. We're not too far off from that. So there's a lot of different ways that humankind.
Did Tiff's audio cut off?
Yeah.
I think you're muted or something. Something happened.
Yeah, we lost you, Tip. Okay. So, what do you think, Lorenz Walker? Do you? I mean, one question I want to segue kind of between these two things is, if you could, would you want to leave your body and be uploaded? Hello? Now I can't hear
Uh,
you. Oh.
I don't know. Um, I wasn't really focused on that part of it. I was just wanting to talk about whether or not people just have too much power, which might lead to their inevitable demise.
Yeah, let me turn off this fan back here real quick.
Okay.
Am I back? You guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Well,
Cellular service, yeah, not so good.
so what's interesting about the too much power thing, Lorenz Walker, is that when I was younger, well, before I was born, but then stretching into a little bit of the 70s, maybe, there was a certain resignation to humanity that nuclear war was going to happen. And when you know, like if you ever read Richard Feynman's book, I think it's in there. He talks about it and says, "I was 100% certain that we'd have blown ourselves up by now, or at the very least, have used nuclear weapons in aggression more than just that one time." And so there's something, humanity is well, they're able to take certain things seriously, I guess. Some at least seriously enough to keep us alive for the moment.
Yeah, but they've used them before, and more countries have them now. So I mean, it's only a matter of time, right, before somebody uses them.
I mean, is it?
Well, there's the whole idea that if anyone launches a nuke at anyone else, it's going to be the end of the world because we're all going to launch nukes at everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think whoever launches the nuke, everybody else in the world will dogpile them.
Well, that no, because what about the people that support that? What about the areas that support the nuke thrower? And they're like, well, yeah, we hate the people you nuke too.
They'll be neutral, though. Nobody wants to fuck around with nukes. I mean, there's only so many crazy enough places that are going to actually do it. Muslims, maybe. Russia, probably not. Right? Iran,
I don't know. Terrifies me.
well, look, but Russia's a fucking kleptocracy. Putin, Putin's getting everything and more that he needs out of that presidency. He's filthy rich, the most powerful man in Russia. That's all he really cares about.
Hope you're right.
He's
So
certainly not going to. Go ahead.
aside from nuclear destruction, what other means of destroying the world
Well,
or humanity is left?
I'm most scared about the idea of a post-antibiotic apocalypse where the overuse of antibiotics leads to their complete ineffectiveness, which would lead us unable to perform even the most simple of surgeries other than amputation.
That's not true. You could still sterilize shit.
Yeah, but you can't treat infections without antibiotics.
Okay, but
Can't
not all
have
surgeries result in infections. If you're super, super clean, you can hopefully avoid one.
not with open surgery.
Well, okay, fine.
To be able to cut into someone's gut, and just the idea is that we have overused antibiotics. That is a fact. The diseases are becoming stronger, the drugs are becoming weaker, and it's because we've given every single person who didn't need an antibiotic because, oh, it's the new miracle drug.
Because that's what they wanted. It's like they came into the doctor, they're like, well, I want that. And the doctor said, well, you don't need
Well,
that.
no, literally. That's what people do. Doctors have gotten to the point where they're like, you can't have an antibiotic yet. You need to be sicker for longer first.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the important parts too. We need to not let our immune systems be so. Uh, we need to let them work out some of the shit themselves so they can get stronger.
Yeah, there's two sides to it. There's the side of it like our immune systems are growing weaker because we're curing everything with drugs, and then there's the diseases are becoming stronger and resistant to the drugs. So what happens when they don't work and our immune system is shit because we've been using them for so long? Now great point. We got two problems.
Well, I mean, I think the solution to that is number one, parents need to let their kids be out and about and in the world and getting dirty and playing and shit like that, where they get exposed to a lot of stuff and develop the immunities they need for life. Um, but then, number two, I would say, I mean, the number of times that I've taken antibiotics in my life as an adult, uh, very, very few. I always, you know. Now, granted, just because haven't ever needed them really, doesn't mean other people don't need them. I'm not saying that they're not needed. I'm just saying that if you're pretty healthy, you could go through most of your life without really ever taking them and be fine, you know?
Well, I think the only truth that the people are born with medically immune systems.
You're cutting out real bad. I can't hear what you're saying. You're cutting out.
Sorry, I clear now?
No, it's still really warbly. Well,
I'm on mute for a little bit. I'm gonna hold on to this thought. I'll come back to it.
okay. Um, well, I think that for me, the concern about the end of humanity comes from particle accelerators and the creation of miniature black holes. You know, I don't want a black hole to get away from us. You know, oops, the black hole got loose. You know, that that concerns me. But you know what? I mean, the same thing concerned humanity back when we were making nuclear weapons. We weren't really sure. You know, when they set up the first nuclear weapon, there was some thinking that it was possible they were going to ignite the atmosphere on fire and end the world right there. But they tested it anyway. So I mean, people are Say again. Oh,
You guys hear me now?
yeah, I heard that sentence.
Forget it. You guys keep talking.
Oh, well, you're
No, now
back.
it's clear.
Now it's clear. Now you're clear. All right.
Okay, so the it, uh,
Now it's warped again.
Yeah, forget it. All right. We can't hear a word you're saying. So I mean, humanity does have a tendency to play with shit that can go disastrously bad, potentially, and feel confident they can handle it, right? Um, and thus far, we sort of proved we can. The considering how much potential for damage things like nuclear weapons and chemical weapons have, I think humanity would be not completely out of line to express a certain amount of self-satisfaction at having to manage to keep those things more or less under wraps. Another way that humanity might possibly die is what they call gray goo, which is uh, self-reproducing nanobots. So, or any kind of size bots, really. If you get them to self-reproduce, if they can take random raw materials and reproduce themselves, then, and especially if you start at the nanobot level, then it doesn't take long before they eat the entire planet.
Yeah, I've seen something like that somewhere before.
Yeah, gray goo. I mean, it could be something less sexy. It could just be a meteor hits us. We've had some close calls.
I mean, yeah, there's a ton of things that can just go wrong in space, right? That could just be the end of our planet.
Right. Do you think that the environment ultimately poses a real existential threat to humanity?
Uh, hmm. I want to say yes, but people are also highly adaptable.
Right. Because global warming to me, it doesn't seem like a real existential threat because we already have people living at the North Pole. We already have people living in the middle of the Sahara Desert if we wanted to.
Uh,
So we could survive much more extreme temperatures than we currently are
we might,
experiencing.
yeah, we
We
might
might have,
lose a lot of people or some places,
right.
but I mean, as a whole, humanity will probably still continue on. The conditions just might be different.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, look. The thing is, what's interesting is humanity for all of its history has been predicting apocalyptic stuff. And as modern humans, we think, well, but yeah, you see, we actually have the means now to create that apocalypse. So it's real now. It's not just, some magical going to happen soon. But my point would be, does that really make a difference?
Does what make a difference?
Like, okay, we've had people. You could make the argument that for all of human history, people have been predicting the end of the world and apocalypses, and every single prediction heretofore has been wrong. And these
Yeah,
predictions have numbered in the infinite millions throughout human history. But then you could also argue, well, yeah, but now we actually have the ability to do it.
yeah,
So,
and just how exponentially our advancements keep increasing.
so you think that's the more important factor?
Yeah, and how much power, like the amount of power that people have just possess or are possessed now.
Yeah. I mean,
By any chance, can you guys hear me clearly?
yep.
Okay, so another really scary potential possibility would be, what with all the different genetic modifications to increase IQ and things like that. What happens when we all have like crazy high IQs and lose the will to live? because we realize that the life has no meaning to it.
That's already happening.
Well, yeah, I know, but take that existential terror that we get sometimes just as regular human beings and multiply it by a factor of 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I would hope that if you are extra super duper smart, that you'll be able to implement some sort of protocols or algorithms,
There's some way to try.
cognition,
Yeah,
some way
but
to
you know
address
who's
that.
almost always really, really smart, high IQ? Sociopathic serial killers.
Well, but that doesn't mean.
So I don't think being smart means that you're going to necessarily be good.
Well, but I mean, look, if you're super smart and capable and you're tortured or abused as a little child, then obviously you're going to come out all fucking warped. And if you're not, if nothing happened to you and you still come out like that, I don't know why. I don't have an explanation for that. But, I mean, I think the species is probably okay. I'm much more concerned about myself. Like, if the species goes, it's probably going to go more than 50 years from now, let's say. We don't feel like we're on a brink right now of anything. I don't feel that way.
I feel that way sometimes, depending on what I'm currently researching.
Oh, I tell you when I felt that way was when George W. Bush was president. Because that guy was fucking apocalyptic.
Yeah, I don't think he was as bad as people say he was. The same way I don't think Bill Clinton was as good as people say he was.
I'll agree with the second statement, but not the first. George W. Bush was the absolute worst president this country's ever had. By a long margin. Absolute worst. Oh, undeniably, absolutely the worst. If you think about the amount of damage he did in his 8 years, it's astonishing. He did more damage to this country than any president's ever done. By far.
That damage was set in motion before he had anything to do with it, though, is my point. The same way a lot of the good stuff that happened during Clinton's presidency was set into motion before he came in.
No, he oversaw Homeland Security. He oversaw the Patriot Act, all that shit. Homeland Security costs us each countless millions of dollars. Do you know that with compound interest, if you take a $5,000 the government takes out of your taxes, and you compound interest it for 40 years, it goes to $2 million?
Your point?
I don't know. I forget. I know it was a good point, I'm sure.
I'm sure it was. I'm not doubting that. I just don't see it.
Okay, well, what was I talking about right before that?
Well, we were talking about, I don't even remember now.
A couple of ENTPs.
Oh, George being horrible.
Say again?
George Bush being horrible.
Oh, yeah, George Bush is horrible. All right. Well, because, look, what I'm saying is, with Homeland Security, you've got a massive federal bureaucracy that didn't exist before. It costs each of us money every single year in taxes. That compound interest, it represents a defrauding of the American people at a scale not seen since Social Security. I mean, you could argue FDR is the worst. That's fine. Huh?
I agree. I just don't blame Bush for all of it. Ultimately, the only thing the president has complete control over is foreign affairs. And we're not.
He has to sign that shit, or it doesn't become law. He didn't have any of his vetoes overridden. He has all kinds of power. His job is not to get things done; it's to prevent things from getting done.
I see. Really one person's supposed to be responsible for batting down a bad idea when a bunch of people, when the majority has already said we like this? I think it should be the other way around.
It shouldn't have anything to do with whether it's one or the majority. It should have to do with whether it conforms with fundamental principles.
yeah, I don't think we should be trusting one person to decide if it's conforming to those principles or not.
Well, the good news is, but see, here's the thing. That power is fine. That power is safe. You don't want to empower people to do stuff. It's always safe to empower people to prevent stuff from being done in government because they're going to manage to do shit anyway.
Listen, I gotta go. I'll come back on cam later, okay?
All right, see you later, Cheat.
See ya.
Thanks for watching this exciting episode of Talking with Famous People. I'm going to stop this one.